Welcome to Museum Minds, my friends. And look at this cool new feature we just realized in Zoom that now you get to see my face the entire time. All right, so you made it. You're here. It's fantastic. Be ready. Put your camera on if you're ready. All the cool things. We are recording, so make sure you're smiling. And also know that we're going to send this recording to you tomorrow. And anybody who couldn't make it today, they still get to watch us and our antics and fun and goodness. All right, so this is Museum Minds. What is this meetup all about? Rainey, do you want to tell everybody what this Museum Minds meetup is all about?
I love telling people about what Museum Minds is all about. So if you have been here before, you may have heard that Beth and I met in a business mastermind several years ago. And I was actually just thinking about this on a drive yesterday that we both, it was a program with a lot of people from corporate America. And we quickly realized that we were, I think, quite literally the only two nonprofit people in there. So we connected really quickly, I think partly too, because we're kind of goofballs. But we both developed our own very distinct businesses. But we started to realize that there was a lot of knowledge that we had collectively and that we could be sharing with other people. And we wanted to find a way to share that value or bring on guests who also have value, like Alli, and share that knowledge with you for free every month. Museum Minds, it's always free. And again, like I was saying earlier, we're just super humbled about how much traction we've gained and how much interest we've gotten. And we will continue to listen to you and your feedback and do our best to create programming that is relevant and fun and exciting in the future. So thanks for being here, everyone.
Yes, we
Yeah.
love it. It's so fantastic. Like literally the best day of the month. We always love it when you're all here. All right, so with that being said, we have now taken our 5 to 10 minutes of housekeeping and intros time up, and then we go into this 25-minute-ish time for content, learning all kinds of cool stuff, questions. So have your fingers ready for the chat because we do have some questions today, and we do have a poll as well. So that's coming up for all of you introverts in the crowd. Prepare yourself now. Extroverts, time to shine. So then we have a brief intermission, which is literally like 1 minute, so that those of us who are speaking can get a drink. And our extroverted introverts who are speaking get a tiny little moment to ground themselves. And then we go into 25 minutes. I know, same. 25 minutes of Q&A, or at least as many minutes as we can spare after we're done chatting. Q&A is the best part. It's where you get to really voice your concerns. There were so many amazing questions on the registration, so we know kind of what is out there, what people are thinking about. But this is your opportunity to ask live and get exactly the answers you're looking for and possibly follow-up questions. So kudos to you for showing up live. Kudos to you for being here today. We love it. Also, this is the time to Q&A time is time to say your name and where you're from so that other people can reach out to you. Also, putting your name and email in the chat. Museum Minds Collaborative means we're all together and we are not gatekeepers of museum bestie friendships. We are not keeping all of you away from each other. So make sure if you're willing to connect or even just LinkedIn, whatever, pop your stuff into the chat so it's there and other people can grab your information. You can do that now, you can do that later. Alrighty, so that's what you're in for today. Who are we? Rainey, you want to go first?
Oh, I will go first and I'll make it quick because I know everyone is really here to hear from Alli. So my name is Rainey Robison. I have worked in both arts and marketing in varying capacities for over 25 years. And currently I am focused on helping arts and museum professionals market their organizations with clarity and confidence and without the overwhelm. So I will be talking about some courses and workshops that I'll be offering later in the presentation, but I'll turn the time over to you now, Beth.
Woohoo! I'm Beth
Mhm.
Housewort, and I own Inspired Impact. I help new museums and new museum professionals get a jump start on industry knowledge. So I do tons of staff training. I work with emerging museums, all kinds of goodness. Oh my gosh. So it's fun.
Mhm.
Have a great time. All right, let's dive in and stop this really fun screen share. But it's still fun. All right, so as we're getting started here, we have a very special guest today, and we are going to be talking a lot about professional development, but we know that we have a mixed audience. A lot of Allie's people have come on because they are museum job seekers or people
Mhm.
wanting to break into the industry. Whereas there are some of us who have been in the industry for decades and a long time, 25 years for me. I can't believe it's been that long. Um, And then there's some of us that are kind of in the middle and like maybe they're in the industry, but they're not quite sure. So I'm going to throw up a poll, not throw up, but I'm going to put a poll on the screen. And I want you to respond based on where you're at in leadership. I'm going to read it because we're all reading it right now. What's your museum involvement status? Are you trying to break into the field? Are you currently working in the field and looking for professional development? Are you a leader in the field looking for staff opportunities for growth? Or are you just here for the results and you clicking it because you want to know what else everybody answered? Can you guys see this? Can everybody see it? No?
We saw it earlier.
Yeah.
I know. What
Yeah,
the
when we tested
hell?
it out, what the heck?
Okay, hold on. Hold on. Relaunch the poll. Relaunching.
There you go. I know. Sometimes you have to reset stuff. It's like breakout rooms, which are the bane
Well,
of my existence.
and a part of it was because I did test it earlier. Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing responders. It's happening so fast. This is cool. Oh, yes.
I
We are
think
already at
museum
like,
people especially appreciate a survey. So I
yes.
feel like we're more willing to do that if we've ever had to do evaluation.
And it's anonymous. So, like, I always love that side of things. Like, I could click a button. I have no problem with that. If I have to put my actual signature and name on it, I'll take a second. Right. We are at 81% responded. And I always know that there's not going to be 100% because there are some like AI note taker people, bots, in our calls. So if you haven't responded, you have like 30 milliseconds remaining to respond because we want to know the results. And it's interesting, friends. All right. So I'm going to, oh, I hate it when like at the last second somebody else responds. Okay, we're at 90%. So I'm going to end the poll and then I'm going to show you guys the results so that you can see too that we do have some job seekers. 13 out of the 60 respondents. But majority of us are working in the field and we're looking for a little boost or a build or a brag. I think we know our audience. Um,
Excellent.
and then there's some fun leaders, which I'm assuming will also be those people who are already in the field, but also have a little bit wider mindset um, that they want to help out their people too. All right, so we're done with that. That gives us some context. Allie, does that help you as we're
It
getting ready?
does greatly. So thank you.
Awesome. All right, so here's Alli Schell. She is a museum thought leader and goodness, she runs your museum career coach, not just a museum career coach, but your museum career coach. I love their name. So she's already winning at marketing. Also, you will probably know her, and if you don't yet from LinkedIn, you should connect with her and me
Mhm.
and Rainey. She does a Monday listing of job opportunities in the museum field as well as internships. I see nodding heads. You have LinkedIn connections already on this call. All right, so let's jump in. Allie, tell us about yourself.
Yeah. Well, so I always have to call myself out first. And preparing for a whole, talk here about bragging and self-promotion. Beth asked me, "Oh, how would you like me to promote you? How would you like me to talk about you?" And I'm over here. I'm always a person that I'm a behind the scenes worker, even though I'm very much a public figure now, which is still very weird to me. I am the person, I did theater, I was on crew, I did public programs and exhibits. And that to me is always doing, the outward part and me being behind the scenes. So seeing the result of what I did, but not necessarily being the face of it. Right. So even then, even with Beth asking me, I'm like, I don't need an introduction. I'm fine. So I am the first to call myself out of being like not wanting to self-promote and even going into this role, right? Being someone that has to now sell myself as an independent museum professional. Beth and Rainey, I'm sure you can agree. Sometimes it can feel a little weird to start to think through what does it mean to sell yourself and also to brag about yourself. But also, uh, I don't want to make a whole blanket assumption about our fields, but from working with people one on one, with their resumes, with their job search, we are just as a whole not a field that likes to brag, that likes to even talk about ourselves in any sense, from sharing things on our resume to in the interview. So I know that this is like an epidemic within our field. And I think it's also the nature of our work too, and why we go into this. Um, so I do want to acknowledge upfront that self-promotion can often be shaped by, our upbringing, the culture that we've grown up in or that we live in, gender expectations, things like that, or just our own self-confidence. So I'm putting that acknowledgement on everything as we go through this, since I know that sometimes we're up against lots of other different things besides ourselves. So I wanted to start off by diagnosing everybody's anti-brag complex. I just got my booster shots, luckily in Delaware. I'm able to still get those without anything. So I am very much in this mind. And so I'm going to ask you all 5 questions. You guys can chime in the chat. Beth and Rainey, feel free to weigh in while people are chiming in. But I'm going to see if I'm correct about our field and to see if we actually all have this anti-brag complex. All right. So first question, if you had to describe your self-promotion horn, what would it look like or what would it be? So is it a kazoo or is it a sousaphone or is it something in the middle? So Beth, what would your self-promotion horn be?
The question is, if you had to make yourself a horn, like, doo, 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 doo,
Yep.
oh my gosh.
Or Rainy if you have it.
I didn't think about this ahead of time. This is taking me.
I surprised you guys with that one.
It has to be like a horn. It can't be like a piano or.
Oh, look at you. I like it. Oh, I see some bagpipes.
Let's see what other people are saying.
Right. I'd like the bagpipe where it's like a constant little bit of hum in the background, but then every once in a while you throw out, they're like, like I like the bagpipe idea. I'm going to steal that one. Or like a muffled trumpet. Like I used to play trumpet in the high school band, and you have like the toilet plunger you put on the end of it, like you can make it muffled for a little bit, but then you can, that's where I'm at.
What about you, Rainey?
I'm saying kazoo. I just really resonate with that. I'm not really sure why, but kind of quiet, kind of loud, kind of silly. I don't know.
I love it that somebody in the comments says a kazoo because I have one right nearby me. Love it. All right.
Awesome. Okay. I see a lot of kazoos, some bicycle horns, a clown air horn. Oh my gosh, this is great.
Recorder from grade school. Oh my goodness.
Cross buns.
Mixed emotions.
Okay. All right. So I have a good idea. Question number 2. How many of you feel like doing good work should speak for itself and that others should naturally notice? So I'll ask that again. So how many of you feel like if you do good enough work, if you feel like you do well, people should notice and you shouldn't have to like self-promote. They should self-promote for you.
I think that's the assumption, but I know it's not true. So that's my opinion on that one.
Yeah. Rainey and Beth, have you had this assumption? Was this
something I think I and a lot of people have learned the hard way, that I thought that was the way it would work, and then realized that I needed to do a much better job advocating for myself. So
I see the repetition in the comments of I wish that was true. I've learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yep. Yep. And I would even say too, even within your resume, right? While people are still kind of chiming in, we think people can read through that and immediately be like, oh yes, I see exactly their career pathway, or I see like I can connect the dots. People do not connect the dots. I know it seems silly, especially as someone like I can look through someone's resume and easily see all the cool threads that you guys have. Um, you can't make that assumption, even if you're like, I was an educator outside of the museum field, and now I want to be an educator in the museum field. Obviously, like it makes logical sense. Museum world is not logical, but you really have to like boop, make that connection. So, okay. So everyone's sort of on the same page. That's great. All right. Question number 3. How many of you feel hesitant sharing your wins or accomplishments because it may come across a certain way? So people might think that you're arrogant, self-promotional, whatever it is, how people might characterize you.
Yes.
Yeah. I will say I'm the same way.
Definitely a pass
I will
belief.
always call myself out.
And that's a hard thing for those of us who have transitioned from the museum world into business owners too, because that also relates into like having to then ask people to buy things from you. It's the
Oh
worst.
yeah. Well, and you have, for me, it's always like this idea of like the seller, right? Whatever level, of like the smarmy salesperson. And you're like that is the extreme. It's the person that doesn't self-promote, and then there's the smarmy person. And there's actually a middle world that we're going to
Mhm.
talk about.
Let's talk about it. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, our time is.
Oh
Whew,
my gosh. Okay, okay, okay.
I
And
know,
last,
right? Well, we
yes.
can have like 10 more minutes, you know.
Yes. No, you're good. No, you're good. You're good.
It's good.
And then I want you all to share one aspect that keeps you from bragging about yourself. So it could be like fear of rejection, how people might perceive you, could be your upbringing,
I love
your
this.
gender.
It's situational. If people are being punks, then I'll give it to them. If not,
I
then
like
yeah.
that attitude. Keep that attitude. We're gonna boost that attitude.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
for sure. Yep. Can do a whole thing on that. Okay. All right. So while you guys are still chiming in, now I want to prescribe you all a confidence booster. Sorry, it's so terrible, terrible fun. Um,
Terrible.
and just kind of go into a little bit more about what makes a really good self-promoter and some really good techniques, right? So if you think about someone that's really good at self-promotion, they're usually really authentic. They're being themselves. They're really excellent storytellers. um, and I can even share that from example, right? Even going into this new world of promoting my own business, I didn't think that I could exist without being really just feeling really uncomfortable in self-promoting. But if you find and come at it from a very genuine, authentic way, people will be attracted to that, and they're going to want to either buy your services or want to know more about you, right? So, um, I want you to think about who you feel most comfortable sharing your wins with, and a time that you had to share a win with someone, like what your body language was, or even what your language was. Um, Maybe some of the words that you used. Immediately, I think of a time that like I was sharing a win with my parents, for example, and my eyes immediately like light up, and I my language changed, my body language changed. I'm maybe more relaxed, maybe smiling, and more excited, because those are people that you're comfortable with, right? But if you put the reverse on that, if you are in an interview, or even if someone in a networking situation where they're asking you to tell them about yourself, or to share your wins or accomplishments, your body language probably immediately, even in your mind, probably already kind of closes up or changes, right? So we want to shift that. We want to change that so that you still have that excitement, that genuineness that you feel about sharing about yourself with people, that aren't close friends or peers that know you really well, and how to brag about it. So I want to share. I really want to get into the good stuff of, when Beth and Rainey and I were kind of strategizing about what we were going to talk about today, and I came up with this idea. Well, I came up with this idea. Beth came up with a really great title for this.
Because
I
we
call it a
both use
workplace
the same
diary.
thing. Yeah, we both use the same tactic. And when Allie said it, I was like, oh my gosh, I just talked to somebody else about this. This is what I call it.
What do you call it, Beth?
I call it your rah-rah file. Rah-rah cheerleader. I was an old school cheerleader at a really small high school, so I call it my rah-rah file.
I love that. So you call your rah file. I call my workplace diary. I think I had someone else, I know a former boss, call it, you're at a gal, you're at a guy, you're at a person, accomplishments. But basically, and this I think is going to actually help with a lot of questions and things that some of you all had, and especially for a lot of you that answered the poll and that are kind of in this middling spot, right? So this is a document that can be of any shape and form. Now I'm going to send you guys after this, or Beth and Rainey are going to send it to you. I'm going to give them the link to sort of a template that I have for this that, you can use it. I'm not, super software developed. It's just on Google Docs, but you can certainly make it your own and take kind of the core content away. Oh, a workplace scrapbook. Ooh, I kind of love that. Thank you. I love that idea. So this is something that maybe you keep track of weekly or monthly, which are projects that you've worked on, your wins, and what I think is really important is any measurables that you can attach to that. So that could be, hey, I raised our social media following by 20% this month, or I brought in 50 new members. Anything, any sort of measurable that you can add to it, or, hey, there was a new audience that came out to the museum. It doesn't always have to be numbers. It could be, any sort of way to quantify something. It could be any challenges as well. I think it's also really important to keep track of your challenges to see, hey, did I overcome that or not? And that's okay. It can, it's something that I'm going to talk about in just a second, why it might be helpful to keep track of that. But also, maybe you could always come back to that when you're reading through your diary or your scrapbook or your raw file, and you might look back at that challenge and be like, oh my gosh, that was really nothing. Back then I thought it was something really big, but it really isn't something now. The
Well,
best part, oh yeah,
I'm just gonna say real quick.
yeah,
I think it's like I will double down on that challenge side of things because oftentimes, if you are a job seeker or you're looking for a promotion, one of the questions that most employers asks are about the things that didn't go the way you thought they would. And
mhm,
putting that into your rah-rah file gives you time to think about it, analyze it, and think of the good that came from it so that when they ask you that question, you have an answer right off the bat. So I will
a
double down
hundred
on that
percent, 100%. Yeah, we're gonna add to Beth's thing of like how this can be used. The last kind of piece that I think is really crucial for me, as someone that helps people with their job applications, is collecting quotes and testimonies. So these are things that maybe you were giving a field trip, and they emailed, the teacher emailed you and was like, oh my gosh, our students had the best day. Here's why. Save that email, save that content from that email just in case you lose access to your work email. Save that somewhere. It could be maybe, you overheard, it was a face-to-face conversation and you had a volunteer say, oh my gosh, I love working with you, or gives you a compliment. Like, try to write that down. Anything from people that you work with to peers to volunteers, visitors, board members, etc. Save those. These I love to sprinkle in, or you might say, leave a brag crumbs in your resume, in your cover letter, even in an interview, because somebody, even just sharing a quote of someone speaking about maybe how it is to work with you or about something that you did, speaks so much more than you actually saying it. And you can bring notes to interviews. So you can directly write out that quote and read directly from it in an interview. Be like, if someone asks you a question, for example, tell us about your management style, tell us about yourself as a leader. Oh, by the way, I have this quote right here of, one of my colleagues saying this about working with me. That's going to speak volumes. I use this all the time. It's my little secret weapon, but also for things like annual reviews, this whole document, right? So not only can those quotes be used, but yeah, sharing your challenges, sharing your wins. You're going to have this document now that you've been collecting over how many number of months, that when it comes to time where your boss sits you down and is like, okay, you're going to have your annual review in a week, and or you just left the field and you have to update your resume and cover letter. And I have done this where I'm sitting here, I'm like, I've been at this job for 5 years, I know I did stuff. What did I actually do? I can't quantify it. Right now you have this document, you can even dump that into Chat GPT. I always say use AI as a tool. It's a time-saving tool, and say, hey, can you do a summary of my challenges, of my wins, of the projects, my top measurables, have it spit something out that, hey, when you go into that annual review, or if you go into a board meeting, you have to justify something, you have that ready to go. You have your ammunition, you have your facts, which we all need. So, it could be used for, if you want to advocate for a raise or a title change, obviously for interviews, weekly meetings, things like that. And sometimes even just for a confidence boost.
Oh my gosh, we all
Remind
need
yourself how awesome you are.
on the bad day, on the bad day. And I have to say, like, as you're talking about this, like rah file, your journey, all this stuff, I created a portfolio when I was getting ready to interview. And like,
Mhm.
I kept that portfolio as just like a beautiful thing. And also encouraging you to like keep the collateral. Like, I designed a flyer. So I put it into like the little plastic thing in a binder. And now I have that portfolio, but also at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, I have not updated that since I interviewed for a position almost 15 years ago. So, like, wow, there's
Yep.
so much. And I literally set aside like 2 full days to just create this portfolio because I had like been raising kids for a couple of years. And I was like, I need to really represent myself as not just a mom, but a museum professional who has been in the industry for all this time. So, oh my gosh, so good. All right, Ellie, we
Actually,
have
I'm
just a
gonna.
few more
Oh, we're
minutes.
just at time. That's fine.
No, but what I want you to do is I want you to tell us like one banger at the end because I know that part of we talked about was identifying our gaps and
Mhm.
where we can go to get some professional development. So can you give us a little
Yeah.
snippet of that?
Yeah. So, top question I would say that you all asked, and that I usually get asked, right, is skill building. I great, this is great. I have all these skills to brag about, but do I actually have the skills to brag about? So, there are some things to do to first identify that, right? So, and this can be at any stage in your career, right? So maybe you're going for that director role, or you're trying to break into the field. Number one thing I recommend is look at the job description. Again, this is a chance where you can use technology, you can use ChatGPT. You can dump in, save quite a few different job descriptions for the roles that you really want. Have it pull together a list of, hey, what are the top skills needed for this role, right? Always remember ChatGPT doesn't understand nuances of museum field entirely. So you might just have to double check things, right? So it's going to spit out this list. You can even put in, hey, here's my resume, here's, my skills, or just look at that list and have it do a comparison and see, okay, here are some of the gaps. And I will say, because then, people will look at that list of gaps and be like, oh my God, I have so much to work on, or, these seem insurmountable, or whatever it is. I just like to remind people that skills, there are transferable skills, right? In and out of the field. And there are ways that you can skill build without it always having to relate back to museums, right? So maybe one of the skills that you need to boost is leadership or management. Doesn't have to be in a museum. It could be somewhere else. Maybe one of the skills is um, I'm trying to think of something. Oh my god, off the top of my head. But there's lots of different ways to get skills that doesn't have to be in a museum world.
And
Now, some of them, yes, are directly related, but you don't always have to. And so, again, people always, and this will be my last banger. All right, and then I'll
I love
we,
it. I
we can
love
take
it.
it. So the thing that I'm going to leave you guys with for the break is a lot of people ask me for professional development opportunities in the field. Um, and ways to do that. So I'm actually almost done compiling a list of things that people have given me. I put this call out on LinkedIn, but certainly you guys can share in the chat too, because I'm always looking for more things. Beth, you and Rainey are on my list of professional development opportunities in the field. So lots of different things, from free webinars, workshops, courses, all like the whole range, to actually like paid certificate programs, schooling, etc. Everybody always jumps to, I think it's like an automatic thing. Well, in order to skill build, I need to get more schooling. It depends. Now, there are some areas in the field where you might need additional schooling. But unfortunately, that is just not the case anymore. That really the focus, again, depends on certain roles. So I'm gonna put an asterisk on that. But sometimes places are just looking for more hands-on experience. So you could get all that schooling and you go to apply for a job. I've seen this happen, unfortunately, and they're like, this is great, you have all this education, you don't have any hands-on experience. So I know, again, the museum feels wacky. I totally get it. I have to acknowledge it. You know, getting some hands-on experience, you know, maybe there's some courses and things that you can do that you don't have to spend any money at all or very little to add to your resume. So anyway, I can chat more
I
about that,
love
but
it.
we'll leave you on that note.
I love it. And that was one of the big reasons why we asked Allie to join us, because we heard these little rumblings about this resource list. And I was like, this is what people need.
Hmm.
And I was like, do you think you'll be ready? Like, do you think you can like send it to our people? And if anything, we can preview it and then give her some feedback on what she's up
Hmm.
to and things like that. I know that we always are looking to grow, including those who put out the content, you know? And then one last thing that I'm going to say too before we introduce next month's topic is Allie mentioned about the gaps in which we might feel that we have in the field and those transferable skills. But I also want you to think deeply about what you do outside of the field and how those skills are benefiting you inside the field. So, like, there's a lot of people trying to break in and stuff like that. Do you lead your softball team? Do you rally up your friends for a networking group once a month? Do you have, you know what I mean? Like, do you teach Bible study or, you know, something like that? Like, there's so many more things there that, again, if you want to use AI or you want to talk to your friends, like, what are the transferable skills that you're doing in the world that turn into amazing stuff in the inside? Because just like Allie's saying, like if you have gaps and things like that, it might seem insurmountable. You can look outside to get those things filled. But on the same side, look outside to see what you're learning to make your next review, interview, all those things boosted to say, I am an amazing connector of people. I run 4 different learning networks that meet on a monthly basis. Yeah, one of them has to do with women's health. Another one has to do about in entrepreneurship. But I have monthly meetups and I know how to get people together. That's impressive. So, with that being said, let's give Allie a round of applause first and
Ah,
foremost.
I have
She
so
will
much more
be
to
joining
share.
us.
It's so hard. It's so hard
I,
to hold back.
I know it's hard. Well, there's lots of things that Allie has for us in the future too. So we're going to make sure that we're including that in the email. All the things, if we have a minute at the end of the Q&A too, she's going to go ahead and put up her future events. So stay tuned to the end. I'm going to share real quick for next month's topic. And we also had a bumper crop of registrations for our past session called Photos That Don't Suck. So guess who's coming back? Woohoo! Tell us about graphics that don't suck.
I will. I wanted to
And
really
talk,
quickly.
then you can have more time for all the other goodies too.
No
Real quick.
problem. I wanted to say really quickly, oh my gosh, I'm going to start a RevRef file. I'm not on the job market, but I realized that I need to write down my own wins because there are certain days where I think I need to remember that I'm doing better than I think. So I think that that's such a good idea. And I just want you to know that Beth and I are taking a lot from this as well. So let's talk about graphics that don't suck. So like Beth said, in May, we had photos that don't suck, and it was enormously popular and a whole lot of fun. And before I tell you about this, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I know we're sort of short on time, but I think this perfectly demonstrates what we're going to be talking about. So yesterday, I went into my local UPS store, and as I was walking out, I grabbed one of these flyers. I don't know if you've seen these,
Oh,
these flyers.
wow.
Advertise the local businesses. And I looked at it and I thought, you know what? This does not look too dissimilar to a lot of social media feeds that I see, especially in the nonprofit world, meaning there's a lot of graphics and words that are screaming at you, and the fonts are all over the place. And I taught design at the university level for nearly a decade. And I happen to know that this can and should be immediately remedied. There are some very easy ways that you can work on your graphics to elevate them and make sure that all of your outward facing materials are consistent and beautiful. And so in the meetup, we'll be talking about setting up, or sorry, working with your existing brand, setting up some basic branding guidelines. So again, everything that goes out is consistent. And then just some basic design principles that if you apply these, again, they're very simple, but it can enormously elevate the graphics that you put out there. So this may or may not be your rule. If there's a marketing person in your organization, please forward this on to them. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to talk about it.
And sign up always, museumminds.com.
And it's always free.
Like always free. I always feel like every time I say Museum Minds, I have to point to my head because a lot of times people hear Museum Mine, like for coal. Museumminds.com. All right. Rainey, you have more talking to do about this amazing new community that you're starting.
Yes.
And while everybody's listening, feel free to start putting your questions in the chat just so we can be efficient by the time we get to Q&A.
Yeah. And I'll be quick, but if you are on my email list, you probably received something about this the other day, but I just started this school community called Art Meets Strategy. And if I'm not sure if you're familiar with school or not, but it's just another learning platform that also has a community aspect. And I wanted to basically bring my collective knowledge in arts and marketing to this group, because I have been a gallery director. I have been a marketing director for an artist residency. And I remember feeling a lot of times like, am I sure I know what I'm doing? Should I be posting to this social media platform or this one? How do I get audience engagement? How often should I be posting? Should I be doing email marketing? Is my email marketing working? What about fundraising? So many topics that I sort of had to figure out on my own. And I wanted to create a space where we could talk about those topics. And again, I could share my knowledge. Now, I used to charge $49 for every single live workshop. I've decided to make it a one-time membership fee, and then you're in and you get access to all of the workshops. If you look on the bottom right, you can see a bunch of the ones that are coming up. Next year, I have email marketing, audience engagement, all sorts of topics. And with that one-time fee, you're in, you have access to everything. And I'm going to be adding some live Q&As and some other content, again, all for free. Once you're in the community. Now, I keep thinking I'm running the slides. So Beth, thank you. So I'm excited next month, or and actually very soon, on October 1st, I am running a marketing with AI workshop. Now, the workshop is not just about, it is about copywriting and content creation and brainstorming and ways that I use AI to save time, but it's also going to talk about ways that you can make AI sound like you. There are all sorts of things that you can do in the settings and the way that you work with AI so it doesn't sound like a robot, it doesn't sound generic. And if you think of it kind of like when you're cooking and you lay out all of your, mise en place, you put all of the things out in front of you before you cook, that's what we're going to talk about. Again, getting into those settings, making sure that AI is trained on your voice and to sound like you, and again, not like a bot. And I'm going to share all of my missteps so you can avoid those as well. So I hope you'll join us. If you sign up for the community, I will put this in the chat in just a minute. Basically, you will immediately get an email with a link to the workshop. So
awesome.
Good luck to you there.
And I have things too, just because, I want to make sure to support everybody.
I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in the.
You're tooting your horns. That's great.
We are tooting our horns. We need practice on it sometimes too. Rainey's going to put some links in the chat. This is a freebie, another freebie that's coming up tomorrow. If you are a summer camp provider at your museum and you want to hear about what's going on in the industry, I've got representation from coast to coast already signed up. And we're going to just talk about the wins and the woes of summer camp and how that went. For some folks, like my area, they've been out of school and camp has been done for over a month. but I wanted to wait until after Labor Day, knowing that a lot of schools don't start until after Labor Day in the Midwest. So that's tomorrow. Rainey's going to put the link in the chat, and of course, it'll be in the email tomorrow. And then, of course, my regular Wonder Makers workshop that you've heard about before, if you've been on these calls, that is on the 22nd, and it's all about museum engagement, a quick $49 workshop that gets you through kind of the 3 essential steps on prepping your teams and prepping your spaces for great interaction. So let's kind of skip intermission because we're at that point that we have about 15 minutes left for questions. I will get myself a drink while we're fielding the questions because Allie's only here for a limited amount of time and we got to take advantage of it.
That's fine.
Alli, as you were reading in the chat, do you see anything that jumps out to you fast and you want to answer?
Yes. Yep. I've been taking note. Okay. So here we go. We're just going to do rapid fire. Just because this was picking up something that you had mentioned, Beth, which I'm so glad you brought up, which is the topic of portfolios. And someone asked, I'm so sorry, I was just taking notes real quick. Should I be creating a website for self-promotion, right? So tools, I think this is all about kind of tools for self-promotion. So what I like to say to people in the museum world, so there might be other fields where making a big elaborate portfolio, even website, right, can do a lot of mileage. I like to save people time in this field. Time is money, time is valuable. You don't have to go that extreme level. Now, if you really want to, right, you can. Sometimes I'll just say, you know what, take, let me give you an example, right? So let's say you're someone that has done collections work, right? So maybe you have these policies that you created. You can turn those policies, if you're able to share, into a PDF, send them along. I like to do this with the thank you. So if you made it through the interview round, and I would say after the HR interview, so if you've interviewed with actual staff member, and then maybe this comes up in an interview where they're talking about collections policies or things that you've worked on, best practices, you send the thank you off with this PDF of just the specific thing and say, here's an example of something I worked on. I think it's better, like if you're going to create like a whole document, which is fine, to direct people when you want them to see it to a specific aspect of it. It's very overwhelming for like, here's my whole website, right? And if you're looking over 50 of these, I'm just making an assumption, right? Or even just one, right? Like, where do I go? So if you have a website, for example, direct them to a page. Then it's on them if they want to keep going. And sometimes they will, looking at other things. So for education people, for example, if you have pictures of you leading a program or an exhibit you created, you in action, maybe you have a program proposal or a program overview outline that you put together, just throw it in a PDF. Even the pictures, you can just slap literally. It's really hard for me to say because I'm a designy person. So for me to just say this is really hard, but just slap them in, a Word document with little caption, just explaining what it is, send it along. The big thing is getting the main things out. The design is nice and certainly can be a nice layer. But you don't have to go over the top. It's really making sure your stuff shines. Same with your resume, right? What should be shining is your skills, your experience, what you do, not the design necessarily. So just wanted to kind of put that out there just as like a time saver for people, that you don't have to go to the extremes. It can also just be little pieces of things. It could be pictures. It could be documents. It can be all sorts of things that can count as your portfolio.
I love that because I have pictures in my portfolio that I've done in the past, and it has like me with a tool belt on and like power drills and things like that, because that also then represents like I'm ready to get into it, but also like I have a fun nature and a fun spirit and things like that, that maybe in a interview experience you're really kind of nervous or a little bit quieter or things like that. Sending along evidence that you can be like energetic and kooky and things like that might be good too.
Yep. Okay. Next question I saw that I think is going to answer a bunch of other people's question. But I'm going to read out the question because I think it's a really good one. So Ashley, I did get your name. You asked, you're a job seeker in the museum field, but also worked in corporate and now trying to get back into museums. So left the fields, worked for a bit of time in corporate, now trying to come back, um, and is finding that potentially this is seen as a disadvantage and when applying to museum jobs. So how can I change that? How can I bridge that gap? Which is a universal thing, right? I've helped people so many times with this, left the field, come back, or even just trying to enter the field, right? So you're coming maybe from a different profession, trying to enter the field. It's kind of all in the same realm. I say this is what you have to do as translation work, in the sense of you kind of have to pull yourself out of whatever that is, right? So if you're doing corporate work, think, pull yourself out and think, what are the larger things that you did? And also think about what's the language that museum people use to describe that, right? So educators, for example, if you were working like as a full-time museum educator, not museum, I'm sorry, in a school, there's definitely certain lingo that you might use that not necessarily is used in museums. So how do museum people say it, right? Same for corporate things. Now, off the bat, I can already think of maybe, like, again, I don't know what this job in particular was, but there's definitely some lingo that museum world definitely loves and understands, which is project management. And even the reverse, right? I will say just about everybody in the museum field has project management experience, even if it isn't directly called that, just based on the nature of the work that we do. So always claim that you have it. But just think about, okay, what were the larger skills that I gained? What are the transferable skills? Think about the nature of the roles that you're applying for. Again, I don't know exactly which. Oh, okay, communications. I'm sorry. So um, yeah, just think about, look at job descriptions. Again, you can even use ChatGPT, be like, hey, what transferable skills do I have? But, I want you to kind of do the exercise yourself because it'll help you better in interviews. So to think about, what's missing in translation, what might be like stuck that, doesn't necessarily translate to museum world, but is absolutely like a skill. And also thinking about, what do you now bring? Like you bring advantages working in a corporate job or having worked, maybe you worked in a school as an educator now or going back into museum education. You definitely bring some things. Don't forget that. So confidence boosting yourself. Think about what you now bring coming back into the field. That you have to make very clear, which could be a statement at the top of your document. Like I'm always like, own your story, get in front of them. So whether that's, a little statement, not a summary. I don't like resume summaries, sorry. But I do like a really actionable statement at the top that maybe gets in front of certain things that, hey, you know what? I had to leave. I gained these skills, I had whatever reason you had to work a corporate job, which, hey, you know what? It's crazy out there in the job field for a variety of reasons. So, you don't explicitly have to say, but hey, I left, worked a corporate job for a few years. Now I'm ready to come back to the museum field. Here are the skills that I bring. Here's where, I did this. This is how this directly aligns to this. Sometimes you even might have to do that comparison. Exactly. Right. So yeah, so maybe I worked on, high dollar campaigns with for profits. And now, hey, I can work on nonprofit campaigns. I don't know. Again, I'm not as well versed in communication lingo as some other things, but um, just some ways to think about that. It's a really good question.
How
Okay.
many pages should a resume actually be? That's a
Well,
question.
what
How
was,
many,
I'm sorry.
somebody put in there, how many pages should a resume actually be? And I actually was just asked this question by a friend recently because she sent me this voluminous resume and I was like, wow, as an outsider, there's lots of industry knowledge and lingo here. Wow, that's a lot of pages.
This is a loaded thing for me. You guys came at my jugular with this one. So I do not believe in the one page resume unless by whatever means, like sometimes you only have experience to fill a page. Um, However, I'm going to put a big asterisk on this because I just saw that the federal resume, and I have to look this up more. I just haven't had a chance. Is now restricted to 2 pages, which I feel like might be something that's going on with the federal government right now that is making that happen. Um, so anyway, I have to put a big asterisk that that is happening there. However, in non-federal job, um, I really think it's important to let your experience shine. And so if you have to go onto a second page to better describe the work that you did or to highlight something, do it. Don't let formatting dictate that. I just really think that there's just these parameters that are put on things that really can do us a disservice. Um, But there's also a difference between a CV and a resume. So don't just call your resume a CV because it's 6 pages long, right? There's an actual purpose to a CV, at least in the US. I know it's used interchangeably abroad, but in the US, a CV is more sort of academic focused. So that might be things like if you've done research papers, publications, presentations, things like that, because typically more academic roles are going to be looking for this versus a resume, which typically, is 1 to 3. I will say 3 pages could be, a max.
Wow, 3 pages is a lot.
But
There's a comment here from an HR person that said, please, only one. Any more is a CV. So they were right along
interesting.
the
No,
same
it's okay.
line
You
as
don't have to have
you,
your
Elliot.
opinions.
Well
I just
done,
think
well done.
I just think there are some people in their career, like mid to senior level,
Yeah.
no way you can fit everything on a page and get through. And because they, especially in museums, I will say, okay, let me just, I forgot to mention this. This is in the museum field. Other fields, sure. I just feel like it does not work in the museum field. That's my
Yeah,
statement.
true. Good caveat. I like Daniel's comment too. Tight resume and extemporaneous addendum. Thanks for the big words and making me look stupid. Addendum with whatever you want to highlight on there. Yeah, for sure. All right, Alli, so that we have time for you to
Oh,
toot your
sure.
own horn, I'm going to go ahead and turn on share so that you can share your screen and tell us where we can find you in the future in the last
Yes.
3 minutes, because we always want to make sure that we can get people out of here on time because
Yep.
life is busy and they got a lot on their plates and they might just need to go toot their own horn a little bit, whether
Yeah.
it's bagpipe or kazoo or whatever.
Exactly. Everyone had really great ideas. All right. So first and foremost, a couple of different places you can find me, right? So I'm very active on LinkedIn. I post a lot of resources. I had a really busy summer with a lot of different things in my life, so I'm just kind of warming back up again. But yes, I do post jobs, museum jobs on Mondays, and I'm late this week, but typically Tuesdays I do. This was another busy week. Part-time roles, internships, and fellowships in the museum field. So if you're interested in any of those, I do post those, typically ones that I just find on LinkedIn. So to demonstrate that LinkedIn can also be used as a mini job board in the museum fields, you can also find me on my website. If you sign up for my email list, I'm going to be sending out a fresh email on Sunday. That's going to have some good links and stuff in there that you're going to want to get in at. And I also do some interesting professional career development topics that I kind of talk about as well. But then, just real quick, here are my upcoming programs. So I do try to do one free program a month in addition to paid ones. Again, I'm still getting my feet under me from a lot of different things. So I'm counting this one as my free program this month,
Awesome.
and then I'll be working on one for October or November. But these are my two workshops. So if you love being around other museum professionals, if you love the networking aspect, my group coaching workshops are the thing for you. So we have one coming up that's 2 hours on resume and cover letters. So, and you get a whole bunch. I'm an educator at heart, so you always get worksheets and resources and lots of other things along with the professional development. And then this one is coming up. I'll be releasing this on Sunday, but I'm also now introducing interview prep help that you can actually purchase into, which is great. So I have Interview Lab, which is going to be my other workshop. You're going to get all sorts of interview strategies, which is very much aligned with this one as well, with boosting your confidence. And then, of course, you can always work one-on-one with me. That's my favorite thing, is to work on people's resumes. Yeah, make them ginormous resumes is my thing. But through the resume work, through the interview prep, I do a lot of confidence boosting. I will say that's the number
Yeah,
one thing that I do for people, is confidence boost this field through the work that I do. So anyway,
I agree.
just a
I
little bit
agree.
about me.
I do a lot of coaching as well, and I feel like that's a big part of our job, is to hold space for people and to encourage them that their ideas are great ideas.
Yeah.
So you all had a great idea. This is my segue. It just kind of came to me. You
Mhm.
all had a great idea to come today. So I'm letting you know that we are, again, so happy that you came today. Alli, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're so glad that you came today. We have so many things available for everybody. Alli's workshops, my workshops, Rainy's workshops, Rainy's school community. There's so many amazing resources out there for everybody. So again, we're going to send you an email tomorrow with the recording and a summary of like all this goodness. So whether you were here today to listen, thank you, thank you, thank you, or you're watching on the recording tomorrow or beyond, you will have all the resources that you need. So again, thank you so much for being part of our community, our Museum Minds collaborative hive mind of goodness. So thanks so much for being here today. Have a great day. Go be awesome, my friends.
Yay, toot your horn. Doo-doo-doo. Your kazoo.
Thanks, Allie.
Thank you guys. Bye. We got Daniel till the end.
I know, and he's walking out in the world. I love it.
I was having problems hanging up.
Oh, well.